This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Some stories are just too important to fit into a small time frame. More exploration is needed in order to get the full message out. So the suffering of Irish Angel needs a continuation. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome back our very own Amanda Coleman to discuss part 2 of the suffering of Irish Angel. Amanda, thank you so much for coming in. There was just way too much to cover on the first one.
There's a lot.
The first one got a little deep. So just to give a quick actually, before we get into the recap, let's give a big shout out to Toyota of Hackensack. We buy our cars there because we trust them. Go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. Also, when you're out and about in your new Toyota, visit the Grand Saloon, 940 Van Houten Avenue in Clifton. Go see Nick. Tell him the Suffering Podcast sent you, and he's going to take care of you with some really good food, but we're still trying to get Spam on the menu for him. And, of course, I want a whole menu of Spam. And, of course, go see Frontline Cigars. Go to frontlinecigars.com. Put in the code TSP for a 15% discount site-wide.
Told you, Kevin's just got an issue with meat in a can. So that's
Spam,
why I like
is,
Spam.
if you don't like Spam, you're a communist. I'm sorry.
I keep saying I'm going to go get it. I had it as a kid. I haven't had it in years.
You have white pudding then.
The what?
In Ireland, we have like, you know the way you have blood sausage?
Yeah.
Well, we have, it's called white pudding. It's the opposite of the blood sausage. We call that black pudding, right? So.
What is in it, like zit juice or something? That is
It
gross.
looks like it, but it's gorgeous. Oh my God. It's gorgeous.
You eat haggis over there, too.
No,
or is that Scottish?
that's
Scottish,
Scottish.
okay. Yeah, that's
It's
disgusting.
nasty.
That's nasty stuff. They'll eat
You
anything.
degrade her like that.
Let's recap a little bit, because when you were in here the last time, you really went through some real horror as you were growing up. From your father being abusive to being very poor to I have a hard time saying it. Sexual abuse.
Why doesn't everybody just watch the first episode?
Yeah, because it gets.
And you can recap it yourself.
I have a tough time even thinking about it, because you seem like a very, very kind, gentle person, and why anybody would do that and put that suffering on somebody unnecessarily like that. But if
Weak-minded people, maybe?
yeah, it's a power trip, I guess. Yeah. But we're not done yet. I mean, the last time we left you were living in the ghetto, in with people you didn't know, in 2-bedroom apartment, 5 people,
Dirty toilet.
Newspaper for toilet paper. It was
Ugh.
Well, you know what?
you could read the news on your house.
If there's nothing else,
Better than fingers.
it's like this or newspaper. I think I'll take newspaper. And how long did you stay in that place?
Probably, I think in and around 6 months.
6 months. Yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
And then where did you go from there?
Things started to get a little bit better when my mum came home. We rented a place called Drumcondra. It's in the inner city, but it's the nice part of the inner city. And we rented there for a while, and I went hairdressing. I was working. My mum was looking after my sister. Life started to turn around. My brother.
Now, was Howard still in the picture at this point?
No. She found out he was married.
Can't trust those American guys.
Anyway, so yeah.
That's a whole nother episode now.
Yeah.
Pilot. Yeah. Well, in hindsight, hindsight's
How he
always
got
20/20.
away with it, I don't know. Like, you took her over there for like 6 months. Like, they were together,
Because he had a stabbing cabin. That's why. That's what he had.
Is what they say. Sailors always used to say they had a hole in every port.
That's it.
They're the modern day sailors. Pilots are. So your mother
See
comes
my
back.
cockpit.
Oh my God.
Amanda's got real trauma. You want to make another Boy Scout joke?
If you're just bullshitting to get some money, they'll be able to see that problem.
You were in that lawsuit, weren't
I was.
you? He's one of those latch-on guys. He hears money out there. Let me go get him.
Even the Boy Scout lawsuit isn't off bounds for him?
Nah. Your mom comes back, starts reestablishing the family unit a little bit better. Things get progressively better.
Yeah, I was working. I was training to be a hairdresser. Sister was going to school. My brother had turned himself into the police when he came home. They gave him a slap on the wrist. He went to live with me gran, got his life on track, got a job, all that kind of good stuff. For once, things were starting to, turn.
Starting to look up a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
rain all the time.
No. And then the 7th of February 1993 came. The knock on the door to say that David was killed in a car accident. And that was...
At this point, you got to be thinking to yourself,
What next?
when the hell is this stuff going to end?
Yeah. It was god awful. Like, it really was. I was actually in a nightclub when I found out. My cousin came in to tell me. And when I went home, I remember walking in the door and seeing my mum with her head vomiting into a bucket. Like, she was just gone. And I knew from that moment on that life was never going to be the same again. She had completely, her life was, she was distraught. Like,
She just shut down.
she shut down. Yeah. It was horrible. And then it was bizarre as well, because for me, I had not seen my father since I was a kid. Like, we had nothing to do with him. He never paid maintenance. He never wanted to see us. It was like...
Well, there's a reason why I asked where the father was in the picture, because in my opinion, anybody that puts their hands on a woman doesn't deserve to be talked about, because
Yeah.
he's not a man.
It was a weird one for me, because when David died, I'll never forget, we went in to see David laid out. You go to do the wake, right? And the place was packed. And I remember standing beside him, and somebody walked in and goes, "This is your gran and your grandfather from my father's side." And my father walked in the door. And I just said, "Get the fuck away from me now." I said, "Why are you coming in here now?" I said, "You're a little too late." That really, I was mad. Like, I was
He was alive for
furious.
19 years, and you didn't pay
Yeah.
attention, right?
Yeah, and now all of a sudden here they are,
To play the grieving father role.
Yeah, right. So I was pissed. But from that moment on, my mom kind of spiraled out of control. So she had to be sedated all the time to go to sleep. She was drinking constantly. We lost the place that we were renting in the city. We were living on a mattress on the floor in our aunt's house. I just have to listen to her cry herself to sleep every night. Like, it was horrible. And eventually I got her to move. We moved back into the inner city. And there we were... It was a tough one, because, she was grieving for her son. There was myself, my sister, and she would lash out at us. She'd pull us out of bed just to fight with us, just to blame us, like that David was dead, we were alive. And I know she didn't mean it,
Yeah.
but it was...
She wasn't coming from a right place.
Yeah. So, I never would judge her on it, because who am I to say if that happened to one of my kids, how I would feel about it,
I would have to say that this is the birth of your new life.
Yeah.
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 This compassion that you have inside of you.
Yeah. It was tough, but that whole thing, like, she met a guy, he was a wrong, and this guy was part of, I won't say an organization that he shouldn't have been a part of, but anyway.
He was a pilot too.
I would have preferred he was a pilot. But
A certain criminal organization.
yeah.
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 Enough said.
Yeah. And he would take her to the early house to drink. I'd be looking after my sister. And then if he wasn't staying over, the place would get broken up. Like, the fights, she'd start again, and it was just horrible. So I eventually met my eldest daughter's father, a guy who just showed me attention. I was living in this crazy little flat that there was just so much negativity and so much, you're just trying to cope and get by, and he showed me affection.
So you had to have like a fragile ego at that point too.
Yeah. I was 18 and I slept with him, and I got pregnant with my eldest daughter. He did a bunk. He ran off.
That's usually how you get pregnant.
Yeah, just a bit.
Unless you're married.
No, see, a bunk in Ireland means he's done a jump. He's gone. He's ran.
He's done a jump. And
He's done-
I love that term, by the way. I'm He's done a jump and he's gone.
They call it nut, bolt, and screw here.
So
Isn't it screw, nut, bolt?
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, I got all the things in a toolbox. I just didn't know which one to pull out first.
What kind of childhood did you have? Nut, bolt, then screw.
Screw,
Oh
nut,
my
and
God.
bolt. That's it. Screw, nut, and bolt.
nut,
Yeah, I
and
got
bolt.
it. Yeah,
Oh my
very
God.
good. I'm sorry.
So you meet this guy who's finally
yeah,
showing you some value.
yeah. You know, I suppose you cling to that with the hope that, you've come from a life where and this was my mentality, probably from everything that I experienced, is that you go through so much horror stories with men all my life, but yet all you ever wanted was that to be happy in a family, because your whole life, your family life was chaotic.
You want
So
stability.
yeah, exactly. So I met him, got pregnant with Dion. He ran off. Eventually, he came back 3 months later. We had Dion. We moved out together. Then we were getting married for my 21st birthday. And 3 months before the wedding, he went off with someone else. So that was, I was like, seriously? We couldn't make it up, So that was a nightmare. So I guess
Now you're left with a child.
I'm left with a child.
You're a young lady.
Yeah, we were all I was a hairdresser. My sister was a hairdresser. All my friends were hairdressers. And
It's the 90s, so your hair was probably...
Yeah, it was huge.
It was huge.
The Aquanet days.
But yeah, all my friends went to Australia. They were crying out for tradespeople, so they all went. I couldn't go because I had my daughter. And my sister went. So I had nobody really. And then I met my ex-husband. And he wasn't the type of guy that I would normally go for.
Meaning he was ugly.
No, he actually was.
Come on, he's
he
ugly.
wasn't. He was.
It's not the type of guy. When a woman says you're not my
No,
typical type,
well, you see,
I'm used to going for like good-looking
no, well,
guys.
I guess I always liked a little bit of a bad boy in a way. He wasn't. He seemed like the really good-natured, had 2 kids from prior marriage, was a really good father. And because he was a really good father, it was that I was attracted to, So we got together, got pregnant with Lena, had Lena, got married. But just before we got married, he got testicular cancer. And
That's a kick in the nuts.
literally, we didn't start on a very good key, but we got through it. Everything was fine. My mom, the day of my wedding, was really weird with me, like really weird with me. She never told me I looked beautiful. She never, she was really strange, and I couldn't fathom it. And my sister was the same. She was like, what's going on, And I was like, I have no clue. And it hurt me, like it really hurt me.
It's your special
It's
day.
your special day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then moving on some, and my ex, he was all of a sudden a second phone appears, and the late coming home from work.
Here we go.
Yeah. So I was like, right. I knew it was coming, but I guess I was in denial because I didn't want to I had finally had stability and didn't want to rock the apple cart on the kids. They were happy, and their happiness meant everything to me as opposed to my happiness.
It's amazing the things you'll put up with for your children's happiness.
Yeah.
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 But it seems you've always put everybody before yourself anyway.
Always. It's just it's like an automatic default with me, But yeah, so he left his phone at home. I seen a picture of the girl on the phone. He runs through the door, realizing he left the phone at home. And I asked him about her, and he said, I'm really sorry. He said, she had cancer. I had cancer. We just kind of flocked we resonate, we got together, and it just happened. But he was like, I really want to give it a go. So we said, okay, give it a go. Moving on to this early December was his Christmas party. We went to his event, and she was there, and sure, he was over talking with her all night. So I got in a cab and I went home. He didn't come home until 3 o'clock the next day. So I was like, right, listen, this is just, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And, you know, I said, it's not fair on me. It's not fair on the kids. It's time to, you know, move on. So he was like, well, I can't afford to move out right now. And I was like, that's okay. You know, it was weird because as much as I knew he was having an affair on me, I could kind of understand how they got together. You know what I mean? They had an understanding that I could never understand, you know, so.
Yeah, that connection.
Yeah.
That's why Mike and I sleep together.
I know, right? I was wondering.
Because we got a connection.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I just out you? I'm the top, just so you know. I think I just made him blush.
Oh, you did. You actually
I think
did.
I made him blush.
Yeah, it was a weird one. So I went over to my only friend that I had at the time, Sandra, and I told her what was after happening, told my mum what was after happening. My mum was over, my aunt's drinking at this stage, and she had asked my other half to collect her. So he did. And he called me and he's like, can you come home? He said, your mom's here and she won't leave and the kids are upset and she's been hitting me in the car in front of the kids and everything else. And I was like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. So I flew home and I just walked in and I said, you just need to go. I said, there's enough upset here. We just, you know, this has got to stop. And she said to me, you think you're all that having a husband? She said, little do you know that me and your husband spent the night together when you were on your bachelorette party.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You sure you didn't grow up in Alabama?
West Virginia.
Oh my God. It was
That had to be one of the biggest gut punches out of everything you went through.
It was soul destroying. Like it was. Like normally all the bad shit that's happened to me, I never let it affect me as much as that did.
You've had...
I mean, how many times did you like stick up for your mother and put up with all of that?
I guess
And now this is
in my mind's eye, I knew how bad she was hurting from her life. And that's not my story to tell, that's hers. But so I guess I always just made excuses for it, you know, just in a way understood why she would act a certain way or, you know, whatever.
Every turn in your life seems to kick you right in the teeth.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what they say. Every time something goes good, they pull the rug out from under her feet.
Yeah.
And now you're starting all over from the ground up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And now you're starting all over again.
Yes.
Again.
All over again.
But in a positive way.
This is something I don't understand about you. I'm just perplexed that you chose to dedicate your life to helping others when you yourself seem like you needed help the most. I don't understand that. How did you transform into that type of person? I know you were always taking care of people. That's different. Now you're taking care of strangers.
Yeah.
How do you transform into that?
I actually fell into it just by pure accident.
And of course, we're talking about Irish Angel.
Yeah. It was the run up to the elections between Trump and Clinton. And normally when there's an election on, as I have learned in this country, you know, Black Lives Matter will kick off, or, you know, there'll be riots, there'll be some rhetoric that's being pushed, right? So my cousin, who's a police officer, was saying to me, there was stuff going on at home, and I was annoyed about, because policing in Ireland is very different. As much as it's the same mission, it's the same, it's very different. And we're about 20 years behind you guys when it comes to policing, but we're cloak and dagger. We don't talk to the public about what goes on within the services. Everything is hush hush, and anything that is released would go through the Garda press office, meaning, you know, they had control over everything.
Yeah.
So when I seen what was happening, our police was being targeted. And I knew they didn't like what was going on either. So I wanted to take to the internet and say, listen, these guys are human, you know, just back off. Like, you know, they feel it just as much as everybody else does. And Damien had said to me, Amanda, he said, we don't have it half as bad, he said, as what's going on in the United States. And I was like, what's going on? And he says, he said, you wouldn't believe it if I told you. And I was like, go on, tell me. And he says, like, cops are sitting in their cars and they're actually being shot.
That happened,
Assassinated.
That happened in Jersey City, Melvin Santiago.
Yeah.
Happened in New York, too.
Who
Yeah.
I have a brief connection to Melvin Santiago. He was sitting in a car. Somebody walked up behind him, put one behind his ear.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it. So I was blown away by it. I couldn't fathom that someone would be that evil. You know what I mean? I knew that obviously.
No, wait, hold on. You couldn't fathom. You
After all you've been through.
You couldn't fathom that somebody would be that evil.
Your husband
Holy
slept with your mother at your bachelorette
shit.
party. And
Your family member sexually abused you. Your father kicked the shit out of your mother. And you can't fathom?
Well,
Wow.
but that to me is different. It's like,
It's way worse.
I know.
It's way worse.
Kev, she's Irish. You got to talk slow to her.
But I got to live, though. I got to live. They don't.
But we
You know what I mean?
We had to put up with the occasional harassment, okay, which ultimately we win because we had something on our side that would guard against them, plus a radio that we can call dozens of other people who have the same thing on sitting on their hip to protect them.
Yeah.
We have handcuffs to make sure that you can't punch us. You didn't have any of these protections. I love what you do. Don't get me wrong, but don't think for 1 minute. Don't think for 1 minute that police had it worse than you.
No.
'Cause I don't think there's many people in the world that had it, and I know there are, but
But we haven't talked to him yet.
yeah. And if you hear from them, reach out to the Suffering Podcast. But that is an amazing perspective that you're still like. There, you could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
You could have gone the other way and said, "Well, nobody helped me when I was down, so screw all you guys."
Well, you know, I think I have my mom to thank for that. And I don't know, but for all the wrong that was done, I knew exactly that I didn't want to become that person. That was the pivotal point for me to say, you know, you can stay on this Ferris wheel of like negativity and all the bad shit that's happening to you, or you can jump off and make something in your life, you know.
So Irish Angel actually started as a blog.
Well,
Really?
it wasn't even a blog. It was just me going on. I went on LinkedIn and I posted messages of support. It was around the time Blue Lives Matter kind of started. And the following grew. Like, I didn't even think it'd reach America, to be perfectly honest. But I was inundated with messages from support of thank you from support, like from law enforcement officers thanking me for what I was doing because they felt that what they were doing was all in vain. You know, everybody was against them. You know, and
There is that hopeless feeling.
so when they did that, when there was so much, I had no clue that it had that impact on somebody just by posting a message. So a SWAT team got together in Virginia.
Well, if you parallel your own life, you're just looking for a little bit of, you're looking for a small win.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing your whole life.
Yeah.
And police officers, in much the same way, although they're very, very different than what you went through, sometimes we're just looking for a win.
Yeah,
You know, when we're getting beaten down every single day.
exactly.
And that's what you gave them.
Yeah,
You gave them what you were lacking.
A glimmer of hope
yeah,
that someone still does care about the police.
Right.
exactly. Yeah, a SWAT team in Virginia got together and they gave me an honorary call sign. So they sent me like the certificate with the Irish Angel and they sent me a flight jacket and all this kind of thing. And I was actually, look, I even get choked up even thinking about it. I know it's something small, but it meant the world to me. Like it really did. So I put together, I seen so much hatred towards them online. Why am I getting upset? I'm getting upset. But I seen so much hatred towards them online that I wanted to do something to give back to them because they gave to me. They gave a little piece of, you know, for once somebody was like.
Somebody was again, you just, wow.
Interested
if there's
in you,
anybody-
for
if
you.
If there's anybody that made lemonade out of lemons, it's you. Really, I mean, you took an experience and you saw something that you were lacking and you passed that on. There's no greater gift that you can give onto somebody else than to give them something that you yourself had been lacking.
Yeah.
And the great thing about you is you have probably one of the it's one of the more horrible stories I've ever heard because it just continues. It's not an event. It's constant. It's on and on and on.
It's not just one suffering story.
No, this is like
That's continuous
apart
suffering after
pieces of-
suffering.
pieces of your story, and but wow. And so what's Irish Angel's mission now, as opposed to when it began?
Well, you see, there's a part of the story, again, going back to my mum, and I know we've moved on from it, but my mum, she suffered PTSD through grief after David died. That's why all the lashings out, everything happened, right? And I only learned this after the fact. She never got grief counselling. That wouldn't even have come into play. And so she used alcohol and she used prescription meds as a crutch.
Anesthetization.
Yeah.
That's what most people going through post-traumatic stress do.
Yeah. So over the years, it progressed. She was tearing at her skin. Like she would, her whole body was destroyed with sores.
Self-mutilation.
Yeah. So it turned out that she had something called parapsychosis. It had developed because it was let go by the wayside that, it developed into something greater. So I've been there for, when she was at her lowest point. And now she's doing well. She's doing okay. But that in itself, when I put together I created a website that was username and password for cops and first responders to go on and, share news stories, talk to each other, all that kind of stuff. Just because they had done so much for me internally, I wanted to do something for them. And in doing that, I'm watching the conversations back and forth between family members, cops, firefighters, whatever. And it's triggering things in me. And I'm like, this isn't good. Like, because you're remembering stuff yourself. So I did some research and I was like, I knew there was suicide rate was really high within the veteran community, but I had no idea just how bad it was within the first responder community.
Veterans are 22 a day.
22
I
a
think
day.
I think police officers in 2022, I think we just eclipsed 100. If not, we're at 99.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Jersey City cop a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was. Did it eclipse 100 yet?
I'd say it's borderline. I was not before I got here. It was 97.
It was 99 the last time I looked.
Yeah.
Under that statistics,
Yeah.
the blue statistics or something.
Yeah. So a friend of mine is the sheriff in Schenectady, New York.
Oh,
Great.
I've been there. I've been there. That's a wicked town.
It is. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Just can't spell it.
No, Schenectady.
It's a funny story how I learned how to say that.
So here's my Schenectady story. I was traveling for business before I was a cop, and I couldn't find a hotel room, and I find one. I walk up to the desk, and there's a screen, and it says, "You want to pay by the hour, or you want to pay by the night?" I go, "Oh boy." And then I just turn my head, and across the street is an adult bookstore. And I turn my head to the right or to the left, and it's a strip club, and then there's an off-track betting. I
And
never
a cash checking place right down the
I
street.
showered in my socks. I'd never been to a place that filthy dirty in my life. I just didn't want to touch anything. I just was exhausted. But yeah, it's Schenectady. That's it's pretty fun, pretty different
It is.
place.
It is. That's a
Yeah.
fact. But yeah. So Dom was like, Amanda, you've got all this following. He said, what do you want to do with it? And I was like, I can't do anything. I said, I'm not American. And he's like, no, but I am. He said, I know. I believe in you. He said, and that for the first time, that was I had heard that from somebody. He went and like Dom broke me down. He was like, he said, you've got a heart of gold. He said, this is your passion. You need to follow it. He said, I believe in you. So he said, I'll start a nonprofit. He said, you run it. You do the research. You figure out what you want to do. So I wanted, with all the talking, this was going on for years. Like, we was talking to everybody and, realizing the stigma surrounding mental health and everything else, that I went around a couple of treatment facilities that help law enforcement and first responders. And I was asking, what can I do to help? I said, if we're starting a nonprofit, I don't want to be just another raise awareness website or whatever. So the consensus across the board was that if officers were reaching out for help, if they got to that point, a lot of the time they'd go out of state and they couldn't afford the travel expenses because their finances would be in the gutter as well, So I was like, that's where we need to start. So we got the 501 in 2019, December. and we were launching our chapter in Boston in March 2020, and then COVID hit.
Well, this is one of the main reasons why we started talking to each other. Is mental health to Mike and I are it's paramount to what we do.
Yeah.
All right, so we went through our issues and we had mental health issues. Mike still has mental health issues. Just ask him. But so through help, and there was a lot of help out there for us. There was help out there. It was finding it that was a difficult part. But the big thing for us is to be in a setting where we felt comfortable, which police officers don't feel comfortable in a lot of settings. You know, when I went to rehab, I didn't feel comfortable for 1 second.
Yeah.
For 1 second, they tried to get me down to the Florida house. I didn't want to go. I'm resistant. I'm not going. I'm not leaving my life behind. I can't do it. So I went to a rehab facility close, and it scared me straight, is what it did. It got me off of drinking totally. But we still keep in contact with our group of people.
Sometimes far too much.
Yeah. We just had one in here not too long ago, and it's some of the most demented text messaging ever.
Okay, that's the way, first responders deal with
They
stress, is we just joke. And
Yeah.
some of the jokes are just...
Well, you've been around enough first responders to know, and sitting here with us, some of the horrible things that you have gone through in your life, and you see how we react to them. But I'll be quite honest with you, the reason we react to them like that is because we're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're uncomfortable hearing these things. So we'll throw out a joke. Sometimes they're not appropriate.
Why you pointing at me?
I'm just doing this.
I haven't said anything bad.
I got a little.
Yeah, because you got a pen in the other hand.
I
You
got
can't
to,
point at me.
it's something like this. That's how we deal with stress, and most people don't understand that. But do you sort of get it now?
Oh, I totally. But I always got it anyway. It's Irish people. The one thing about us is we're a strange little nation. We, as people in general, tend not to compliment one another without abusing one another, like verbally abusing one another. That's just how we are. And I think that's why I get on so well with first responders, because we actually are on par, like as mentally, with the jokes and everything else. Like I went down to Police Week last May, and I'm staying with three grown ass men in a B&B, and we did nothing but laugh. And I was putting them to shame with the banter, like, and we just had the best weekend ever. But that's just how we are. I get the humor. I get the humor.
It would probably something like this. Wow, that uniform looks really good on you. You gonna go get your jump on down in the gay section?
No, I'm one of them.
And then bump.
Doc.
Bump.
Yeah, Doc. We called him Mr. LGBTQ. Oh, it's good fun. We'd nothing but good fun.
Yeah.
So I get the humor. The humor is like our humor.
And how have you been accepted into that community?
Massive. Like I can't even tell. Like, and it blows me away. In actual fact, when we went to Police Week, like the people on our board and stuff, they knew I had a following, but they actually never realized, and I didn't until then, that, holy shit, these people actually know who she is. Like the people were actually coming straight to our tent just to meet me, and they were like blown away by it all. They were like, we had to come see you. We've been following you for years,
So I reached out to a couple friends of ours when I knew Amanda was coming to the States, and it's, trying to get the most bang for your buck while you're here to get you in front of certain people. And it's, the Blue Magazine, they're like, oh, yeah, we know exactly who she is. And John Wiley is another one. John Wiley. So we've both been on John Wiley's show.
John's a great guy.
Yeah. And just to give you an idea how small this world is, we're doing an event at the Grand Saloon, one of our sponsors, and we run into this guy. He's like, yeah, I'm been retired. I started in Baltimore. I'm like, really? Do you know John Wiley? He goes, yeah, I know John. Calls John Wiley.
Got him on the phone that day.
And we start talking to John again.
Talk about a radio voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
John Wiley's got the radio
Yeah.
voice.
Well, he sounds like he's blowing the microphone. And I'm sorry, John, if you're going to listen to this, but you do. You're like,
He doesn't listen to us.
no, you don't listen to us.
John's a great guy. He's been rooting for me since day one.
Yeah,
Since day
he's a
one.
big
He's always
champion
been
of
Yeah.
law enforcement. I mean,
He's amazing.
one of the
He's
biggest
such a good
champions. But John and I, when I did his show, we have a lot of stuff in common.
Well, he's gay too?
Sorry, Nick. Sorry, Mark. He's in that old bigoted mentality. There's nothing we can do about it. Listen, I'm accepted by the gay community.
I'm sure
We
You're
know.
laughed at by the gay
you're
community.
more than accepted by the gay community. I know that. It's like playing golf. It's like a hole in one with you.
As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to go be one of their marshals in their parade.
Good for you.
I'll throw it right out there.
Are you going to wear the little hot pants?
I have them. I have them. No, I got the assless ones.
Oh,
The
God.
assless ones.
He's going to be on a stool without a seat.
Look like two pieces of bologna.
Oh, God.
Can we get back on track here?
No, this is kind of fun, making inappropriate gay jokes. So some of the stuff that you explain, some of the services that you provide
Yeah.
in Irish Angel.
What we do is the funds that when we eventually did kick it off, which was October last year, we started to raise funds. The funds that we do raise help send cops, first responders and veterans, if they're in financial difficulties, to go and get the help they need. We make sure that they get the transportation there. And if a treatment is not covered under insurance, then we help with that too.
We brushed right over something. We were saying how every time Amanda, something good happens, her feet get kind of knocked out.
Are you waiting for that?
She started this. Just as it started, COVID hit.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
Did you think that was going to...
Here we go again.
But, no, I thought we were going to be okay. And then, we had to think marketing-wise what way you're going to structure, like do your fundraising. So we were like, we'll do online auctions. We'll go online, whatever. And then we got a whole load of sports memorabilia in to do this. We were actually going to do a Facebook Live. It was going to be from different points of the country, people tuning in. It was going to be an all day kind of thing. With great guests on. It was going to be great. And then all of a sudden the sports people decides to go woke. So you have then cops going, well, I'm not buying sports memorabilia, so that was that gone. It was
Holy, you know what? Yeah. It's that Colin Kaepernick jersey doesn't work
right?
anymore.
So we literally had to take a back seat. We had to sit there and ride the wave out. But I think everything happens for a reason. And that was a blessing to us because it allowed us to educate and to grow. So we made amazing connections, partnered with phenomenal organizations that help people get treatment. And we've been blessed because people that reach out to us for help now, we can literally make a phone call and have help to them pretty fast within the day.
But they must accept the help.
They have to accept
exactly.
the help.
They must accept the help.
They have to accept
And I know
the
this
help.
firsthand.
No matter where you are in the country, though, we can get you help.
Yeah.
So we're lucky in that respect. So
Well, do you reach out to them or do they reach out to
they
you?
reach out to me.
Yeah. And they call you directly?
I'll get an email or somebody will tag me in something, or if it's somebody that I know, or that if they personally know me, they'll text me, or
You must have this wide web of people out there willing to. There's a lot of people in need.
there is.
There's a lot of, especially after everything that's going on in this country, people's mental health has sort of taken a back seat to bigger issues in the country, and hopefully now we're starting to steer our way back into that stuff. So what's going on next for Irish Angel?
Well, we're just about to kick off our bash, our annual fundraising bash in Boston, and then we're focusing. Then we're kind of getting serious. Like people always think of me. I guess they see the pinup girls every morning because we post a pinup girl every morning with positive quotes and everything else. And I suppose they always see the fun side of me, but there is a very serious side to Irish Angel. So we always keep that because mental health is an extremely serious topic, and it can be down and it can drown you out. It really can.
Well, that's the problem with mental health.
Yeah.
And I just had this conversation with our very good friend Mike DePalma, and if you haven't seen him on any episodes, he was definitely in need of Irish Angel. But he's one of our very good friends, and we were having this discussion the other day, him and I, where he was getting kind of mad at certain people just turning their backs on him. And I said, Mike, you have to understand something. When somebody sees you drowning, they're going to try to throw you a life preserver. Everything you can, they're going to try to do everything they can. But at some point, when you're drowning and there's no saving you, if they don't step back you're gonna drown them also.
You
Yeah.
keep pushing that life preserver
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And soon they're going to
It's
pull
true.
that life preserver back in.
And Mike is a very level-headed person now, where he turned around and said, "You know what? I think you're right. I think you're right." Because I did that too. Like there was people offering me help. I pushed it all away.
You
I didn't
did.
want to hear it.
Yeah.
I didn't want help. All right. Once I was ready to finally accept help, things changed for me. And I'm not there yet. I'm not even close to being there.
But you're never going to be. You're never going to be. I think you learn to manage it. You learn to live your life with it.
I call it the new normal.
Yes.
You know, it's your new normal.
It is your
you know.
new normal.
You just got to roll with it. It's all
You
how
do.
you deal with it.
It's
That
do,
word
do you
normal
let,
and you don't marry very well.
do you let it affect you, or do you win from it?
You
Or
turn
do
it
you-
into a positive.
Yeah.
Or do you use
have-
it as a strength?
You have to use it as a strength.
You repurpose the word suffering.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that's the crux of your story.
Yeah.
And how long are you in the States for? And can you do an American accent?
You can do a Boston accent. I know that.
Can you do?
Listen, she's gonna bullshit everybody. She was all before the show. She was talking like she was from Boston. She's just putting on this.
Well, this
accent
Irish
now.
Well,
accent's
Scott-
fake.
The Irish accent's
Scott
wrong.
Mingus, one of our directors, he's from Alabama originally.
Oh.
Good luck with that accent.
You want to hear us, right? When we were at Police Week, there was myself, there was Joe. Joe's from Boston. Then you have Scott, who was from Alabama, and then there was Doc was from California. So people were coming over, and if they were talking to Scott and they couldn't understand them, they'd come to me, and I'd have to
Translate?
Interpret for them.
translate.
You should hear-
and it would be vice versa. It was hilarious. But now I'd be like mashed taters. like
You got to hear a Hoboken accent.
Yeah, I
with-
was
with
just
our
like,
friend
I
Mike.
heard the Palmer.
That's a whole other thing. Now, just moving away from that for a second. Do we have accents to you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do, but you don't. You all did beforehand, but now
I'm not talking about speaking American English. I'm talking about where we're from.
Jersey accent.
Jersey
Oh
accent.
yeah, you do.
They're
The
picked up
different
all over the
dialects.
country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All over the country, they say you're from New York.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm from Jersey.
Yeah.
Same. Then, oh, yeah, same shit.
it is though technically, no?
So do.
Oh, it's the New York, New Jersey area.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's just like when you're in New York, and you're in upstate New York, don't ever say they're from New York
New
City.
York City, I know,
never,
I
never,
know,
never, never,
I
never,
know.
never. That's just one of those little
I learned
traps.
that.
But I do, before we end this podcast, I do want to hear you give your American accent.
Jesus,
Make fun
you're
of us
killing
right
me.
to our face. Come
No,
on, Irish people
no,
aren't
I-
supposed to be offended by anything.
No, I'm not. But I sound like an idiot. So
With white hair, you're getting awful red.
it's me Christmas look.
Look like I was just gonna say looking like Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus.
So how can our audience get involved or look for Irish Angel? How can we find some way to help out?
Anyway, we're actually growing Irish Angel right now, so we're building out chapters. I'd no idea just how big it was, as in the amount of people that need help, like that need the funding to go and get their treatment. And we service all of the United States, so it only seems right that we open chapters in different areas to raise more funds. So we're looking.
That choosing process must be very difficult.
It is. I traveled most of the country this year, which was, don't get me wrong, it was phenomenal. But I have to travel it. This is my baby. This is my passion.
And you're the face of the company.
Yeah, and
They don't call it Alabama Angel.
but you have to trust the people that is involved and understand and know that they're in it for the right reason.
Exactly.
Because I've been played like a fiddle in this too. Because I went into this very naive, eyes wide shut. Thinking because I come from a good place, as in a non-profit, you think everybody is starting non-profits because they are good people and they have the same heart as you. That is so
Okay, yeah, you
far
got that
from.
right.
It's just ridiculous.
Welcome
And the
to America.
And the corruption in non-profits is insane.
Well, so we have a nonprofit as well, and once we started it, and I'm looking at how it's structured, I said to myself, "Wow, there is really room here to really be inappropriate and improper in the way you handle those finances."
Yeah.
Kev, the IRS is listening.
That's okay. They can check my bank account because they're not one
Yeah.
dime.
We haven't got
Exactly.
one penny.
But neither. I'm the same. None of us on Irish Angel has taken a wage. Nobody. You know, we do it because we have the passion. We love what we do.
I was getting yelled at for buying supplies and paying for the website out of my own pocket. I said, no, that's my donation to the nonprofit. You don't understand. No, you don't pay. No, I'm good with it. It's not that much money. I can handle it. So, but at some point it becomes draining, and you're doing all this work. And I know the question with nonprofits, a lot of donors will ask these things where they'll say, okay, what's your salary? They'll ask blunt, you know, what do you get? No. I'm not asking you that.
Just for that.
But
no.
But at what point do you make this your job? I'm sure people at the Gary Sinise Foundation, and I think they're wonderful and Wounded Warrior. They get paid for what they do. It's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. You know, you have to live.
Well, yeah, that's and that is factored in, because when you do actually start up a nonprofit, you have to write that in as what, you know, you will get a wage eventually, whatever. And the board has often said to me, you know, you need to start taking a wage, and I'm like, because this is my life. It is my life, but I don't see it. What I get out of it internally, you can't buy that, right? But they're like, Amanda, this, you know, you have to. But I'm in my mind, and I know it's ridiculous, but I'd go, right, well, if I'm taking a wage, how many people would that have sent for treatment? Do you know what I mean?
I understand where you're coming from, but
I think there's a big caveat. I'm with Mike on this one. You know, you were recently on an airplane, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and they give you the whole spiel about if there's in case of an event, the oxygen masks will drop. What's the first thing they say?
Put it on the kids. No, put it on yourself. But then
put it on yourself first.
Put it on yourself first
before you put it on the kid. Yeah.
Yeah, put it on yourself first, because if you're drowning and you're no good, then you're no good to anybody. Yeah. What's the first thing they teach you about responding to calls? You're no good to anybody else unless you get there safely.
Unless you get there safely.
So I'm not telling you anything to take money or anything but that. But damn, Amanda, you got to start taking care of yourself, because a happy Amanda is going to be more productive.
Happy. I am actually happy.
No, you're not. I just said you're not. Stop.
For the first time in
Jersey,
my
you
life,
can't tell
I'm
us we're
actually
wrong.
happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the happiest I've ever been.
You know, it's funny. She said on the flight over here, Drew, you'd like this when they were playing a Frank Sinatra movie. She said it was the best movie she's ever saw. Thank you.
I am a pilgrim in an unholy land. Start spreading your cheeks. Okay. This is America. All right. Before we go any further, actually, I wish Mike DePalma was here, because he'd tell you a thing or two about Frank Sinatra. People in Hoboken hate him, and that's where Frank Sinatra's
Really?
from. Yes.
Really?
Because Frank Sinatra don't give a crap about where he was from.
They have a street named after him.
Yeah, but that's PR. You're doing all these things. You need funds. We need to. Where can we find Irish Angel?
irishangel.org.
Okay, and your social media?
Yeah, we're all over the place. So
Because I Instagram your Blue Irish Angel. Is there Red Irish Angel? Is it?
No, we just keep it all under the blue one. You see, what happened was I wanted to get just Irish Angel. Couldn't get it. So at the time we were just focusing on law enforcement. So I put Blue Irish Angel. The name has kind of stuck.
And you're big on LinkedIn as well.
Huge on LinkedIn.
Okay, so we're going to put all that information in our show notes. So if anybody's looking for you, that's one click away. Just look at the show notes and you'll be able to go there to continue your mission. You know, my big question to you is, you've been through all this different stuff, and as it pertains to your mother and your father, have you forgiven them?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I have. And even the person that abused me, when they were dying, I went and I told them I forgave them.
How did you do that?
I had to. I took control.
Did you do it before or after you spit on him?
Put air in the IV.
Well,
Step on the hose.
well, for me, I suppose it was like I had to take control of my life. I had to.
Closure.
Exactly.
Now, the big question is have you forgiven yourself?
Yeah. No, I'm good with me.
I'm going to say maybe not totally. Maybe this is a way of making yourself feel better about yourself.
It does make me feel. Yeah. And that's the one thing about doing the work that I do. There is a lot that you get internally out of it.
Because you get over trauma by helping other people.
You do.
You really do. Because when I'm having that moment, and I still have those moments, when I'm having that moment where I'm just down and I'm in that bad place. I will inevitably call somebody who I think may be like me, where I can just talk to them, and by helping them somehow, it's a weird thing because somehow it helps me. Sometimes it helps me get over what I'm going through, and I feel better.
Well,
It takes your mind in another direction.
and that's what this podcast is all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we get a lot of joy. I don't want to say joy out of hearing other people suffering.
You sick bastard. You just got joy out of hearing all that stuff.
No, we get joy out of seeing that people came through it and
Yes.
knowing that we're helping, because we've helped so many people with this podcast. Like you said, you had a lot of connections from your 501c3, and you have resources that you could send people to if they need help. We have that now too. We met so many people from so many walks of life.
It's all about connections.
We don't know what people are going through,
Yeah.
or how to help them get through that. But we may know someone
Who does
that
know.
could help you, help
Exactly.
that person, and it's really gratifying.
It is. There's a lot to be. I remember the first time we call it a save. First time we got a save, I cried. I cried like a baby, just because, you see something, you grew something from nothing, like you literally grew it from nothing, and then you see it come into fruition, and it's there, and you've made the right connections. But when you get that call, and you can make that call, and you get that person, like within 20 minutes, we had help to that person in I think it was Virginia. We had help to them, and the messages we got back was amazing.
We'll make it very clear also, and I think I understand this. You're not there to offer therapy, or
No.
you're there to get resources to them.
Yeah, we have the resources available for them.
Right. That's a big distinction. That's a
yeah.
big distinction. Somebody's going through a bad time, call an Irish Angel, say, hey, can you talk me through this? No.
I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it's a friend, of course you're going to talk to them as a friend does, but it's not I would never, try and persuade somebody in a certain way. I just listen. The best thing you can offer somebody who's in crisis is just an ear to listen.
It's an amazing thing you're doing.
It really is.
It really is.
And for everything you've been through, and to see what you're doing now, you're an amazing person. You really are.
I'm all right.
You're ornery.
I'm all right.
You're ornery or all right?
I'm all right.
She's ornery too.
I'm ornery.
All right, meet all wrong.
And meet all fucked up.
So we're coming to the end of this thing now, and I ask everybody the same question. You've had a life. Geez, it's like it's a novel. It really
You've had
is.
a couple lifetimes of suffering.
And there are things in here which I'm sure you've either brushed over or left out.
A lot.
I don't know if I can handle it. I
You
gotta
know,
go to sleep at night.
I know
piggybacking
people.
on-
I'll send you for therapy. You'll be right.
Piggyback on that, she said it's like a novel. I see a book in your future.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Scott, one of the directors, when I told him my story, because I literally only told my truth. I think it was April this year, for the first time I told my story, and it was the most nerve-wracking thing I ever did in my life.
How did it feel afterwards?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I felt like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. But Scott turned around to me and he went, Amanda, he said, this is not a book. This is a movie.
Yeah.
And then, funny you mentioned FHE, because they ran a piece on me there. I don't know whether it's actually published yet or not, but they knew my story. Sharif, the CEO, had asked me mine, and I told him the story, and he was like, this is where you need to be. You need to start telling your story. The amount of people you'll inspire, that women that's been raped or abused or whatever.
Would you show them that there is a life?
A life.
There
Yeah,
is
there is
a
life.
what's next.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't stop at the abuse.
No, it doesn't. The writer, she contacted me, and it was so funny because we only had I'd say about 20 minutes to talk, right? And she's taken down all these things. And then she said, Steve was saying you told your story. Can you tell me your story? And I'm going, seriously? It's so
In
long.
20 minutes?
It's like, seriously? But she ended up staying on the phone with me for must have been about an hour and a half. And she cancelled her other meetings. And she was like, this is just crazy, she said. This is a book or a movie, she said, and you need to write it. I was like, I will one day. One day I will. Yeah.
So, again, that question I ask everybody at the end of the show is, we all learn things from our own trauma, our own suffering. What do you think your suffering has taught you?
It's taught me to be a better mother, like to be a good mom. And it's taught me to be extremely positive and resilient. Yeah, resiliency is a massive thing for me.
Resiliency is a big thing in suffering.
Yeah, big
You know,
time.
if you're not resilient,
No.
you're going to let that suffering engulf you.
Yeah, exactly. So resilience for sure, and being a good mom.
Amanda, I can't thank you enough for coming in and speak with
Twice.
Twice. Bearing your soul, telling some really difficult stuff, but also chronicling how you came out of it and starting this new life with Irish Angel. And for those of you, I just want to say it again, go to irishangel.org, reach out. You're not alone. You're never alone. There are people out here, there are angels such as Amanda willing to help us. And I can't thank you enough.
You're more than welcome.
I just find it weird that, she had all this trauma in her life caused by all these men, and she came in and talked to us two idiots.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. And as always,
She's the one laughing now, not me.
I know.
She's trying to screw you up.
We think about the stuff that we learned. First thing we learned is getting your jump on is my new favorite term. I absolutely love that. I've got to figure out a way to work that in there. Money spoils everything. The rearview mirror is always smaller than the front windshield. All we want is to be loved. I believe in you, Amanda, but most importantly, angels are here to save us. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Irish Angel with Amanda Coleman. As always, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell on YouTube. We're on that race to 5,000 subscribers. Oh, jeez. Follow the Suffering Podcast on Instagram. Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And we will see you on the next episode of the Suffering Podcast.